Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I want to talk to you here today about the building control regulations and the impact that's going to have for the sector going forward. We have the Building Control Amendment Regulations 2014 and we have the Code of Practice published by the Department of the Environment, Community and Local Government for inspecting and certifying buildings and works. First of all, a few quick points in relation to the background. In April 2012, the Department of the Environment published a document strengthening the building control system. At that time, it referred to the future focus for a register of approved certifiers, it talked about the registration of builders and contractors, and it talked about the electronic lodgement of design drawings at commencement stage. And at that time, the Department of the Environment invited the CIF to bring forward proposals relating to the voluntary registration process for builders and contractors. Under the Building Control Amendment Regulations 2014, owners must now sign the commencement notice. Owners must now appoint designers, they must appoint competent builders, and they must appoint assigned certifiers. There's a requirement for lodgement of plans, there's a prior notification procedure, there's a certificate of compliance and completion to be lodged, and there's a restriction on occupation of buildings prior to registration of a completion cert. And I'm going to deal with each of these points on a point-by-point basis. Just to put it in hindsight, we have the Building Control Acts, and under the Building Control Acts, we have the Building Regulations and the Building Control Regulations. The additional areas now include new regulations deal with lodgement of plans, the design certificate, the notices of assignment, the undertaking certificates, the completion certificate, the validation by the Building Control Authority, and the inspection plan. So let's deal briefly with the Code of Practice. First of all, it's a statutory code published by the Minister under Article 20 of the Building Control Regulations. And the purpose of that code is to provide guidance with respect to inspecting and certifying buildings and works for compliance with the building regulations. Compliance with the code shall be prima facie evidence of compliance with the building regulations. Deal briefly with the contents of the Code of Practice. We have an introduction, we have definitions, roles and duties, that's the roles and duties of the owner, the builder, the designer, the assigned certifier and the Building Control Authority. There's the certification process and there's the requirement for lodgement of plans. We have submissions required at the commencement notice stage, and then there's the construction stage inspections that are required to cater for the process. At completion stage, there's a submission required at completion. That submission must be validated and registered by the Building Control Authority. There's provision for phased completion of developments and lodgement of completion certs on a phased basis. First of all, what buildings or works require certification of compliance with the new building regulations? The new regulations apply to any buildings or works that require fire safety certificate. They apply to new dwellings, that is all houses and apartments, and extensions with a floor area of greater than 40 square metres. The requirement is that the new certification applies to all works subject to commencement notice lodged on and after the 1st of March 2014. The scope of works that require a fire safety certificate are outlined on the slide here. So if you're dealing with any material change, material alteration to a shop, an office, an industrial building, or various extensions to commercial units, they would require fire certs and are subject to the new regulations under the Building Control 2014 requirements. I want to talk briefly about the various stages, what's required at commencement, what's required during construction, and what's required at completion. At commencement stage, one must submit a long form of commencement notice now with plans and specifications, include a preliminary inspection plan which will be undertaken during the course of the project, a design certificate signed by the designer which is going to confirm that the design complies with the requirements of the building regulations, a notice of assignment of a person to inspect and certify the works, that is the building owner must assign what they call an assigned certifier to undertake this task. A certificate of undertaking is required from the assigned certifier that he will inspect and certify the works. The owner must assign a builder, and the builder must undertake complete a certificate of undertaking that he will build in accordance with the building regulations, and the fee. A couple of points in relation to competence of the builder. The building owner should assign a competent builder to construct the building. And that's clearly set out in the Code of Practice. And there's a reference also in the Code of Practice that builders included on Construction Industry Register Ireland, that is the register that's operated under CIRI or equivalent, may be regarded as competent for projects consistent with their registration profile. What does the builder undertake to do? The builder will be asked to confirm his appointment. He'll ask to confirm his competence to undertake the works. He'll have to ensure that all persons engaged by him will be competent. He'll undertake to build in accordance with the plans. He'll cooperate with inspections by the assigned certifier. And at completion, the builder must certify that the works comply with the building regulations. In terms of plans that must be lodged with the commencement notice, general arrangement drawings, plan sections and elevations. Now it's acknowledged that all the plans and drawings will not be available at commencement, but the key plans will be available. So include the general arrangement drawings in the submission. And you also include a schedule of the plans, calculations and specifications that are either currently designed or are to be designed. So that detail must be uploaded onto the building control management system. One must complete the online assessment as to how compliance with the building regulations will be adhered to, and include the preliminary inspection plan which will be prepared by the assigned certifier. The design certifier must sign the certificate of compliance on completion, that's certificate of compliance design, and that's lodged with the commencement notice. And the design certifier must ensure that any necessary ancillary certificates are provided with the lodgement. And the design certifier is responsible for coordinating and compiling of the plans, specifications and documents which are lodged. The Building Control Management IT system has been developed by the Local Government Management Agency, and all the building control function is now going to be managed on this IT system. So it's important that the online assessment is undertaken by the owner, the builder and the assigned certifier. It's envisaged that the assigned certifier will upload the documentation to the IT system, and it will be the assigned certifier that will have the responsibility for updating the IT system as the project progresses. But all the statutory notices must be lodged on the IT system, and general arrangement drawings, a schedule of plans and particulars as they're available are to be prepared, and this preliminary inspection plan. So they must be uploaded on the IT system. It's important that that commencement notice must be validated by the Building Control Authority, but the Building Control Authority has a 7-day statutory period within which it must validate the commencement notice. If the Building Control Authority has taken no action in relation to this until after 7 days has expired, the commencement notice is automatically validated. At construction stage, during construction, the assigned certifier will have prepared and he will implement an inspection plan, and that will include inspection notification framework. The assigned certifier will carry out the inspections, and he'll also coordinate the inspections by others. It is acknowledged that the assigned certifier will not be an expert in all fields, and he may have to rely on the certification from a structural engineer or a mechanical engineer in respect of various services. But that's quite acceptable, and the assigned certifier will rely on the certification that's issued by those professionals. It's up to the assigned certifier to follow up on all non-compliance issues that are addressed during the course of a project. He must keep and maintain site inspection records, and he must respond to the Building Control Authority in relation to information requests that arise during the project. What must the builder do? Well, the builder must now construct in accordance with the plans and specifications. He will rely on the plans and specifications, and otherwise he construct in accordance with the building regulations. The builder must cooperate with the assigned certifier in the implementation of the site inspection plan, and then he will also have to ensure that any design work carried out by him or his subcontractors is certified and submitted. So the key from the builder is ensure you have the design documentation properly certified by a professional team, carry out the work in accordance with that design, and where you carry out work which has not been subject to that design, ensure that the design for that work is fully compliant with the regulations. The assigned certifier will inspect and coordinate the inspections by others, and he will retain records of all site inspections that are undertaken. In terms of the inspection plan, there is no formal agreed template as to what the inspection plan should look like, but the assigned certifier will adopt what they call an appropriate inspection plan, which will take account of the relevant factors for the building work concerned and will relate to the complexity of the project. Adequate site inspections should be carried out and records kept to demonstrate that the application of reasonable skill and care. And inspection staff must use their own professional judgment and skill in selection of priorities in any project for inspection. The factors that will influence the inspection plan are, for instance, the type of building or type of construction. What is the method of construction? How serious the consequence of any particular contravention might be, the impracticability or impossibility of subsequent inspection after the work is closed up, and indeed the speed of construction. The assigned certifier must agree with the building owner and the builder an inspection notification framework, and that will take account of the building works involved and indeed other factors. But the inspection notification framework will identify those stages or items of work that the certifier wishes to be notified of during the course of the project. And it's very important for the builder and the assigned certifier to work together as a team to ensure that the inspections can be carried out as required. At completion stage, what's required? Well, a certificate of compliance and completion must be lodged at the end of the project, and that will include any plans or calculations which differ from those that were lodged at commencement notice stage. And it will include the inspection plan that was implemented by the assigned certifier. The completion certificate must be signed by both the builder and the assigned certifier, and it must be supported by the ancillary certificates from other members of the design team and certificates from other specialist subcontractors. From the Building Control Authority's perspective, they must validate the completion certificate and will ensure that that certificate is completed by the appropriate persons, that is the assigned certifier and the builder. And the Building Control Authority will check that there are no unresolved requests for information or enforcement notices or other statutory notices. There is provision where prior notification can be issued to the Building Control Authority as to when you intend to lodge the completion certificate, because it's widely acknowledged that, registration of the Certificate of Compliance and Completion is essential on a key date, because if it's not registered by the due date, that will give rise to massive difficulties for closure of sales and occupation of buildings. But when one recognises the date when the Certificate of Compliance and Completion will be available, one can give prior notification to the Building Control Authority. It's called a prior notification procedure, and that can be done between 3 and 5 weeks prior to completion of the building. The Building Control Authority, when it receives a completion certificate, will determine it as valid and place it on the register. Or if they don't consider it valid, they'll request additional information or documentation. They can return the documentation to the assigned certifier and request clarification of further information if required. But the period for information requests or rejection by the Building Control Authority is 21 days. So if the Building Control Authority has not accepted or rejected the completion certificate within 21 days of lodgement, the Certificate of Compliance and Completion is automatically entered on the register. The key is that the occupation of a building is prohibited unless the Certificate of Compliance and Completion has been registered by the Building Control Authority. And that is a key issue that everybody must be fully aware of, because one will not be able to close the sale of a new building or enable a new building be occupied until such time as the Certificate of Compliance and Completion has been registered by the Building Control Authority. The Local Government Management Agency has devised an online building control management system that is all online. Persons are required to lodge the commencement notice online, lodge the documentation online, and lodge the required certificates online. A key concern I would emphasise is that there is no provision for retrospective lodgement of a commencement notice. So I would urge the industry to ensure that prior to commencement of any development on site, one ensures that a valid commencement notice has been lodged with the Building Control Authority. In addition, the assigned certifier role is key to ensuring the smooth registration of a Certificate of Compliance and Completion, and it is incumbent on the builder and the assigned certifier and the owner to work together as a team to ensure that unnecessary difficulties are not encountered at the end of a particular project. I've just set out here on the slide the undertaking by the builder, which he is required to do at the start of any project. And it's clear here that the builder is declaring his competence. The builder is stating, I'm competent to undertake the works concerned. He's stating, I undertake that any persons employed or engaged by me to undertake any of the works involved will be competent. He goes further to say, I undertake to construct the building or works in accordance with the plans and specifications. I further undertake to cooperate with the inspection set out in the inspection plan, and I shall certify that the works are in compliance with the building regulations. And in terms of the Certificate of Compliance and Completion, which is a mandatory certificate, it cannot be altered in any way. It is a clear certificate from the builder that the works are built in compliance with the requirements of the building regulations. It will confirm that he's exercised reasonable skill, care and diligence, and that he's built the buildings in accordance with the plans and specifications furnished to him. The assigned certifier must also sign the completion certificate, and he will confirm that the inspection plan has been undertaken by him, and he will also certify that, having exercised reasonable skill, care and diligence, the building or works are in compliance with the requirements of the building regulations. So that concludes a very quick run through the Building Control Amendment Regulations 2014. It is a major change in mindset, a major change in approach, and requires a much higher level of oversight to complying with the requirements of the building regulations, but it is designed to give further confidence to the end user of a building that the buildings have been built in accordance with the building regulations.